and welcome to another episode of Coin Talk with the Hallenbecks. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Tom Hallenbeck.
And we're located here in Colorado Springs, the coin capital, just a couple blocks away from the Numismatic Association headquarters.
Yeah, we're doing an educational video today on error coins.
This is one of the most common things folks come into the store to show us if they have an error or call about thinking they might have one.
There's two main types of errors. There's striking errors, meaning ones that have an error in the process of striking the coin. And then there's other ones that are double dies and varieties that are on the die itself. So we'll kind of talk about a little difference on those, but let's start out at the very beginning.
When you walk through the minting process through A to Z, there is a lot of room for errors along the whole process. The first thing when you're making a coin is you make blanks.
Yeah, imagine a tire. They roll out these huge sheets of metal and they stamp out the little blanks, and that's what these blanks are. And the blanks, that's the first type of things. And then they go, of course, into bins where the coins are struck. Where, like, here's a U.S. Mint die. This is a cent die, and these blanks are coming in super fast. And the coin, there's a hammer and an anvil die. The anvil die is sitting there. It's a permanent. It's not going to move. It's the hammer version that comes down and slams onto the coin, and they have injector fingers and kick it out. So these things, it's going so fast, you can't even see the movement of the coins. These things are just like, boop, 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 boop. They're striking these things so fast. It's pretty amazing. In fact, I always recommend if you get a chance to visit a foreign mint or a U.S. mint, Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco, I don't know if West Point gives tours, but if you, or go overseas, it's a lot of fun to go see a mint. But anyway, they're striking these things as fast as they can, and they're going through these huge bins.
So a blank, how does that escape the mint? Does it just get shot out before it gets
stamped?
stamped?
Somehow in the process, maybe they're shoving these things through so fast. And it goes through a shaking table at the end to make sure it fits through the right hole slot. So something that's too big, like this, it's a cent that's about the size of a nickel because it's a broad strike. Something like that shouldn't get through. But anyway, they don't really roll them up anymore. They used to roll them. They just bag them up. So because of the go more by weight, there's going to get a few more errors out there.
And as far as blanks go, they're pretty common, actually. If you walked over to the Money Museum from us, usually they actually give these away to visitors. You get a complete cent next to a blank cent, so you can see, the before and after of the coin planchet.
Yeah, and those blanks are not, you can't tell the date. For collectors, hey, there's no date, there's no mint mark, you don't know where it came from. You can tell if it's a copper nickel or a modern one with a zinc-coated copper-coated zinc, or if it's a copper one, but outside of that, you really can't tell the date. And there's even errors like there's a clipped blank. So there's errors even in the blanking, but those are the most common of the type of errors.
And the general rule of thumb as we go across, the bigger the denomination, they just make less of those coins. So a quarter one will be a little bit more rare than a cent one.
Yep, the higher the denomination, the better. And usually the earlier, the better. I hate to say quality control isn't quite what it used to be, but you don't see a lot of buffalo nickel errors and mercury dimes, and those are much scarcer. Or gold coins, the varieties of gold errors are pretty good.
So now that we've made the blank, as like cookie dough making these planchets, there's a type 1 and type 2. You roll up the edge for the type 2. You can kind of feel the edge. Then it moves into the process where it got struck, and now there's a lot of errors in the striking process. You mentioned a broad strike. What is that?
Well, the broad strike is, imagine this die. There's the anvil die and the hammer, and they slam it down on top of each other. There's also a little collar that goes in just to make sure that, like a reeded edge coin, that the reeding is there. So it slams down in there, and a broad strike, that collar is not there. So it just squeezes out. So like this is a cent that's a broad strike. It just squeezed out a lot larger than it should be.
So really you're saying the collar keeps it in its little mold of how wide it should be.
Correct. And then it pops out, and then these injector fingers launch the coin out of there, and another blank goes in there, and it strikes so fast. It's really a pretty cool process.
And so it almost looks like there's a coin in the middle, and then it has just a little extra rim around it. Some people almost think that these are struck on the wrong planchet, but that's not the case here.
No, it's usually that. There's other ones, like we're talking about the clip planchet, probably one of the more common varieties. Like this is a Kennedy half dollar that's missed as a clip. Well, one of these blanks like this got through the process, and it was struck, in this case the half dollar, and it was struck in there, and the weight's going to be pretty darn close. It's like about a 10% clip here. These with a little clip in the process, not too scarce either. So they're not really, they're a variety or they're error, but not really that great.
So in summary, the cookie cutter accidentally missed a part here, and then this accidentally got into the next stage as well.
And then it was struck, and then it actually got out of the mint.
All right.
Another variety that's kind of cool that you see a lot of is a double struck coin. There are coins that are struck 2 or 3 or even 5 or 10 times. So this was struck once and somehow got back in the machine and got struck again. So in this case, it's a double struck Lincoln cent, and it happened at the mint. So we see a lot of fake errors where people will take a coin and then they'll slam another coin onto it with a hammer. So there's a lot of alterations of these, but we usually recommend getting certified at PCGS or NGC because it's for a nominal fee. It guarantees that it truly is an error.
That it happened at the mint. Another example here is someone simply cut this cent in half so they could see the zinc on the inside. This was not done at the mint. This is simply damage to the coin here, not something that we're looking for.
Yeah, we see a lot of what we refer to as post-mint damage. So it's post-mint damage, it's not an error. You know, sometimes people will, you never know. I mean, it's gone through a candy machine or a counting wheel, and it's something that happened after it left the mint. And in that case, most of those are just damaged coins and have nominal value.
So let's talk about one of the most common ones people are excited to see, a double die. How did that happen?
Well, imagine with a double die. They've taken that die and this die here, and where their hubbing process, they squeeze the impression of the coin into the die. They harden this die, and then they take it out and they squeeze it in a second time, just to make sure all the details, Lincoln's hair and his beard is really sharp and crisp, and it makes it the better detail. And then they take it out and they harden it a second time. Well, like a 55 double die is probably the most common, or not common, but most popular and really cool variety because it's really a shift in there. They hubbed it, and then they took it out and they hubbed it again. And somehow in the inspection process, when there should be someone that's inspecting the dies, they missed it. So they actually got all the way to the process. They started striking the coins, and then somebody along the way looked at it and said, oh, something's wrong with this, shut down the presses, and they stopped it, and they disposed of the die, but there were thousands of these coins that got out with the double die. So a double die, every double die coin, like say a 55 double die, a 72 double die, an 83 double die Lincoln cent, is exactly the same. So because it's hubbed into the same depth, that the doubling looks exactly alike on every coin issued from that die. So if you know the diagnostics of what a genuine 55 double die looks like, they all look the same. So we see a lot of double dies. We get a lot of people that think they have double dies. That's probably the most common things that comes into a store, and 99% of the time they are not double dies.
Here's a double die that I found with working with the foreign coins, and like you said, get them NGC certified because it'll say it right across the top, leaves zero room for debate if it's a true double die or not. And another one, you know, this is up live on our eBay auction, and that's the question, what is it worth? It's worth what you're willing to pay for it here in this case. So take a look below, you can really see the doubling and put in a bid.
Yeah, and one of the things that we see a lot of what they refer to as machine doubling or shelf doubling. So imagine this die is coming down and striking it like this. If it just is a little bit loose in the system, it just has a little bit of chatter, that it just twists a little bit, it'll have a shelf doubling. So one of the ways of telling a true double die is like the date in a 55, they're at the same height. There might be separated. But if it's a shelf doubling, it'll be a little bit of a stair step down. And that tells us just die chatter, and it's not a true double die. And that die chatter or the shelf doubling, it's unusual, but it's pretty common. You probably see it on 5% of all the coins out there, just because they're producing hundreds and hundreds of millions of these coins. So you got to be able to see the doubling is it's the same height as all of the other devices. And I would definitely recommend, there's a great book by friends J.T. Stanton and Bill Fiva. J.T. unfortunately is no longer with us, called Cherry Picker's Guide. The Cherry Picker's Guide is a great book because he really explains all the true major varieties in there.
It also has zoomed in pictures, so if you're not sure if yours is, if you put it right next to the picture, it should be clear as day if it's truly there or not.
And the other one is the Red Book, United States Guidebook of United States Coins. Also known as the Red Book, by I think Jeff Garrett's now the editor. It was Ken Brissett, who lives here in town, and by originally Dick Yeoman. That one has all the major varieties that are Red Book recognized, which are big time varieties or errors.
So really, some errors are not worth a lot. Some errors are worth a little bit more. Get them checked out so that they're not post-mint damage there. Consider certification there. Check out the Red Book. And
yeah, so in summary, there's two types of errors. There's errors in the striking of the coin, like the broad struck or these blanks or these things that got through the process, and they're all unique. Every one of those errors, there's never going to be two broad struck pennies exactly alike, just because of the way they're struck. And then there's die errors that are in the die itself, and every coin has the exact same diagnostics that came off that die. And those are the two major types of error coins, not only in the United States, but worldwide.
As always, have fun collecting.
And if you like us, give us a thumbs up, and we'll try to get more regular videos in the near future. Have fun.